go to heaven, goats go to hell.
Hey everybody, this time I'm in the bathroom. Um, I actually have a really big bathroom compared to the rest of my apartment. It's almost as big as my kitchen. But yeah, there's really only three rooms in this place. There's a living room slash bedroom, kitchen, and bathroom. Um, I figured the acoustics are probably better in here. It's probably a lot better than it is in the hallway. But this is going to be my second installment of my journey through belief. And this is going to be about my adolescence. I'm probably going to go into my teenage years a little bit. But I basically left off with, basically I figured out that Santa Claus wasn't real, and I kind of de facto said, well, God probably isn't real either. It's not entirely true, but it's close enough to the truth that it doesn't really matter. I think I was more sort of apathetic to the idea of God. Getting off the topic of God and such, I'm going to go into some interests that I had, which will tie into the story eventually. Ever since I was really little, I've always been interested in magic. My parents would buy me, magic tricks. I always wanted magic tricks, and, I have to say that, your first magic trick that you get when you realize how cheap it is, how it's just sort of like, how it really is a trick. It's sort of like, it's a little disappointing, because I think as a little kid you want to believe that it really is magic, but it's not. But anyway, so I've always been, despite that setback, I still was fascinated by magic. I loved it. And magic sort of got me into hypnosis. And I wrote down some dates here because I actually still have this book. I bought a book in 1992 on hypnosis, so I would have been about 13 or 14. It didn't really lead itself to skepticism. The man who wrote it believed that you could use hypnosis to explore past lives and possibly even see into the future, which at that point in my life, I thought, really? Are there such things as past lives? And so I kind of, I think I still thought of it in a skeptical kind of way, but I was a little bit, I was a little more open to it than I am now. About a year later, I think it was about a year, yeah, just about a year later, for either my birthday or Christmas, my mom bought me a set of tarot cards. And she said, she bought me these tarot cards saying, I know that you're into this sort of stuff. And I was like, I am? I'm not even really sure why she bought them for me, but apparently I guess, because I liked magic and because I bought the book on hypnosis, and I think I started talking to her about, things like past lives and psychic abilities and stuff like that, which the hypnosis book kind of triggered in my mind. I kind of got into the tarot a little bit, and I sort of, thought, well, maybe there's something about the cards that I never actually thought that there was any magic in the cards themselves. I thought that the cards were sort of like a conduit, like subconsciously as you would shuffle the cards, your subconscious was putting them in the proper order, and your subconscious, was able to psychically connect to the other person. Now I know that it's just a very complex form of cold reading. For those of you who don't know what cold reading is, I suggest you look into it. Specifically, Darren Brown. Look into Darren Brown. He's really cool. I like him, and I'll talk about him later in this series. But I definitely wasn't really. I almost dismissed the Bible completely, and when I got into high school and I started talking about Christianity and the Bible and stuff like that with friends, I pretty much decided that worship, just the idea of worship in general, was a completely illogical concept. Worship itself didn't make sense to me. It seemed like if God created us just to worship it, then that's a petty God, and it doesn't deserve worship. If a God created us for something other than worship, then by worshiping Him, we are wasting our time, thereby doing that God a disservice. And I still hold true to that concept to this day. When I was in high school, and I started calling myself an atheist, I had some friends, sort of like casual friends. You might even just call them acquaintances that were Christian. They would talk to me about certain topics. One, when I told her I was an atheist, she asked me if I was a practicing atheist, and I said, "Practicing? What do you mean practicing?" And she said, she mentioned something about the religion of atheism. And I was like, "There's an atheist religion?" I'm like, "Atheism isn't a religion. It's a lack of a religion. At least that's what I think." And she kind of put this doubt in my head, and it planted the seed for some other stuff. But I was talking to a casual friend who was a Christian, and he didn't really have a problem with the fact that I was an atheist, but he did ask me why I was an atheist, and I said one of the reasons why was because it didn't make sense to me. If the universe requires a creator, why doesn't the creator require a creator? And the way he explained it to me, he said, and basically this is just sort of a convoluted way of saying God always existed. But basically what he said is, he said, imagine that time is like a parade. Now, if you're standing on the sidelines, all you can see is one specific part of the parade at a time. And that's us, and that's how we live our lives. But if you're in a balloon floating above the parade, you can see everything from the beginning to the end of the parade. And I was like, oh, okay. Kind of makes sense, I think. Basically, it was just sort of this elaborate way of saying God always existed, which is a cop-out, because if God always existed, how come, why couldn't the universe have always existed? Why bring this supernatural entity into it? But that's something that I didn't realize at the time. That's not something that really made sense to me. So at that point, I kind of became agnostic. So that's going to be it for this, and I'll go more into it later. See you later.